Good morning, everybody. Today I would like to present everybody with a question. How can makerspaces create and improve the community as a whole? Everybody should be asking this kind of question when it comes to makerspaces, or even your close by friends or family or coworkers. Makerspaces are constantly finding and creating ways to improve the way they operate. Through the ideation process of my key findings in secondary research, I would like to talk about how an institution like the Rutgers Art Library created a station where individuals would get together and build their creative works. By doing this, these individuals used Lego blocks to build work together to solve real-world problems and challenges faced by librarians and other people in the workforce. Another example for the secondary research is Lego Serious Play and Clay Work. Set by the same institution of the Rutgers Art Library, has been historically captivating that these types of communities have in fact developed their own technologies and practices to engage the world. Coming up with these Legos is something that children need to learn how to implement in their lives coming from a young age, that not everything can be solved through just thinking, one way. You have to think through different loopholes and different ideas and methods. Some of the current trends that certain people would want to come together and create the many ideas from these learnings. At a point in time, not everything comes at a price that people want to spend. The survey that I found from the New England College saying that there are positive views towards despite having no plans to create one. The budget and space ultimately creates limitations. But through these limitations, people in the community wanted to bring these makerspaces into their institution because having these set workstations can help build relationships with how they want to create their own ideas. Throughout my primary research, I've come up with an observation, I've interviewed, and a survey of how I wanted to come up with these certain ideas for how communities want a set workstation for how to problem solve, or have a puzzle, something to come up with from scratch. Through my primary research, from the methods I've been using was observation. I first visited Dollar Tree, knowing that puzzles that people can create from scratch are very, very inexpensive, because money these days, people don't want to have to spend too much money to help upstart their problem solving or puzzle solving. And I also used a survey. I created a survey where I asked 22 people of how I wanted these people to where do they shop, where do they shop, how do they create their puzzles for their children, if they had any children, what were some of the puzzles that they came up with when growing up, and how do they solve their problems today. I also interviewed somebody. I interviewed Nicholas Renzi. He's 25 years old at Goodwill. The reason I interviewed him was because Goodwill, a lot of people want to donate different things, like clothes, toys, different things, and I wanted to ask him, like, how often does he get puzzles, toys that come through, and how often do people buy these toys? And because coming together, people don't have the money and time to buy the most expensive puzzle. Also, through the survey, like, do you enjoy making puzzles? Not everyone likes enjoy making puzzles, but whenever it comes to problem solving in our world today, sometimes you have to put together a puzzle, not physically coming up with a puzzle, but how you have to come up, how do they solve these problems, but through, if they have co-workers, don't have disagreements, things like that. Throughout thinking and coming up with these ideation processes, I came up with a concept. Once the extensive research was concluded, I started the ideation process. The information that I gathered were different ideas combined to come up with effective starting points of the process. Worst ideas, best ideas, similar ideas of how a puzzle should be put together. How could you make one at home? You know, what would be a good idea for a puzzle? What's a really bad idea? What are some household idea things that you could use for making a puzzle? Like when talking about these prototypes, I take these ideas to overall benefit what person wants to create a puzzle that can help benefit all ages. You don't want a puzzle made for somebody who's older, more advanced than younger children. The innovation ultimately chose to make a puzzle that anyone can help create with very little materials. Making a puzzle doesn't really need that many materials since it's only a puzzle. Right away you think about some of the household items that you have at your disposal. By starting to come up with the right idea, using the self-design studio was very useful. Having this prototype come up with in the right direction. Finally, the launch plan. There's 3 different things that you have to consider when coming up with a launch plan. After extensive secondary and primary research that were provided, some recommendations can be considered through design thinking process, through these 3 different things. Time frame. Something that must be taken into consideration is the amount of time that needs to be put into furthering the success of one's make shop, for the prototype. It also comes down to preparation of the time of year. Christmas come around the corner. You can think about a puzzle you can make that would be beneficial to children of all ages. Efficient resources. It all comes down to the correct type of resources when building a puzzle toy or device. And also collecting feedback. By having the correct and most accurate feedback when it comes to making a puzzle that's user-friendly, of all ages, of all kind, it's important to look at both spectrums of the data. Coming up with a puzzle, can have some flaws and some different things that could happen that might not ultimately work, just won't work over time. The Makerspace in Greensboro can use these specific findings for many different reasons that can help benefit customers and people in their nearby community. And having these following examples will lead to further success in helping your nearby community by making puzzles that fulfill your needs. The purpose of this presentation is really just to stretch out and really exercise some of the key components it takes for a community to help together a makerspace for great use and implementations. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for your time.